we're going to talk about solving two-step equations. And for that, we're going to use SADMEG. And I like to underline the S and A and separately underline the D and the M to remind us that those have the same power. So we'll look for subtraction and addition first from right to left, then we'll look for division and multiplication together from right to left. So let's take a look at what a two-step problem looks like. So it looks something like 3x plus 5 equals 12. And it could look anything like that. We could have different numbers in there, subtraction, division, all sorts of different things. But we're going to do this, and first we're going to look for subtraction and addition to undo. And if you notice, we have plus 5 there that we can undo. So we're going to undo this plus 5. Well, how do we undo plus 5? Well, that's pretty straightforward. We subtract 5. And if I subtract 5 from the left side, I need to subtract 5 from the right side. And then this goes poof. And now be careful. We have more than just x this time. Be really careful. We undid the plus 5 with a minus 5. We are left with 3x equals, and 12 minus 5 is 7. Now notice we are not done. The variable is not by itself. This is why it's called a two-step. We've done one step. Now we need to do another step. Well, our variable is x. It's being multiplied by 3. To undo multiplying by 3, we divide both sides by 3. This goes poof, and we end up with x equals 7/3. And now that we've done our two steps, and x is by itself, or our variable is by itself, then we know that we have done everything, and our answer is x equals 7/3. And you can see that it's really important to show all our work so we can follow if there's any mistakes, and we can really show our thought process. It's not about x equaling 7/3. It's about showing our thought process. Let's look at some further examples. What about if 12 equals 4x minus 9? Well, then we just look at this. Our variable is being multiplied by 4, and we're subtracting 9 from our variable. Following SADMEG tells us we need to undo the minus 9, and the inverse of subtracting 9 is adding 9. So I'm going to add 9 here. This goes poof. I'm left with a 4x on the right side, and 12 plus 9 is 21. And now it's just a one-step problem. I can divide both sides by 4, because I say, what's my variable? It's x. It's being multiplied by 4. Inverse of multiplying by 4 is dividing by 4. And so now this goes poof, and I get x equals 21/4. And we are done. Let's look at some more examples. How about q over 3 minus 7 equals -2? Now that looks pretty complicated, but we can do this pretty straightforward. We say, what's our variable? Our variable is q, and what's happening to our variable? It's being divided by 3, and we're subtracting 7. Following SADMEG tells us to undo the subtracting 7, and we can undo that by adding 7, because the inverse of subtracting 7 is adding 7. So we add 7 to both sides. That goes poof, leaves us with q over 3, and that's equal to -2 plus 7 is 5. And now we have q over 3 equals 5. Our variable's name is q. It's being divided by 3. The inverse of dividing by 3 is multiplying by 3. I need to follow my rules of algebra and do that same thing to both sides. I go poof. I get q equals 5 times 3 is 15. Let's take a look at one last example. How about 4/3 x plus 5 equals 9? Let's just do that problem. That looks pretty complicated, but let's see if we can do this. Well, our variable's name is x. It's being multiplied by 4/3, and we're adding 5. So let's do the inverse of adding 5 because we're following SADMEG. So we subtract 5, subtract 5. That goes poof, because the whole reason we did the minus 5 was to undo the plus 5. We get 4/3 x, and 9 minus 5 is 4. We're not done. Now x is being multiplied by a fraction, so we could multiply by its reciprocal. So multiplying by the reciprocal of 4/3 is multiplying by 3/4. I'm going to multiply this side by 3/4. So this goes poof, poof. We're left with x equals, well, this is like 4/1. Look at that. I can go poof, poof there. Those cancel each other out, and so I get just x equals 3. And that's it. That is solving two-step equations.